Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Musician's Mentor podcast. As usual, I am your host, Travis Mark, and today I speak with fellow South African guitarist extraordinaire Paul Hodgson from the Parlotones. I haven't spoken or even been on the same scene as Paul now for years, but we both grew up on a very competitive original scene, and his band, the Parlotones, went on to do massive things. Various world tours, high-selling numbers on their albums. In fact, so much so that they are still one of the biggest selling South African bands to ever exist. He also has a new project called After Wonderland, which is super cool. You should check that out. As a friendly reminder, please do me a favor and leave us a rating or review if you're enjoying this content. You can also find us on all social medias across the board. We were going to try to get Khan involved with this interview. He was originally going to join us, but that didn't work out. So hopefully I can revisit that and Khan will potentially be a future guest. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Paul Hodgson. All right, Paul Hodgson from the Parlotones. Thank you so much for joining me on the Musician's Mentor podcast. We're going to get into some stuff, but probably not a lot of stuff that I wanted to, because, I mean, we kind of grew up on the same scene. Obviously, you guys went to massive, enormous success, which we'll talk about. But dude, this is going to be a hoot because it's kind of like a blast from the past for me. So thanks for joining me, man.
No worries. Awesome, man. And you're going to mentor me, right? That's what this is about.
yeah, that's exactly right. Not at all. Let's start the way I start all of these podcasts, and basically that's going to be for you to do a brief introduction on yourself. I mean, I obviously know a lot about the Parlotones. You guys were easily one of the most successful bands in South African history. Numerous platinum selling albums, multiple awards, a whole bunch of stuff that, people can go and find out in the links that I'm going to put in our show notes. But instead of me going through that just as we're talking, just give me a brief introduction on yourself and the band if you want to, but just so that the listeners who are listening to this get a bit of a direct source from the source.
So I'm Paul. I play in the Parlotones. Like I say on my social media things, I say I'm an average musician with above average experience. So we started the band something like 25 years ago. It was like the end of 1999, and we just wrote songs in a garage and fumbled our way through things, and we had a very good run of things. Hey, there's a lot of luck involved, a lot of hard work. We made a lot of mistakes, but we had amazing times. We got to see the world. And it was 4 different guys, but we were friends. We've stayed friends. There's been ups and downs, but we were just always there for each other. And that's it. But at the end of the day, we're just pretty normal guys, really, that like making music.
Yeah. Before I go into my next question, the thing that I definitely want to circle back to is the fact that you guys have stayed friends. I know that seems like such a insignificant kind of thing, but I think for people who've never been in bands before, and I have this conversation almost repetitively, bands are interesting because you all seem to start with the same goal in mind, right? It's almost like this gang mentality, let's take over the world. But what I've seen time and time again in a lot of the projects that I've been involved in, when even moderate success comes, sometimes certain egos blow over. And some guys seem to become, whether you want to say arrogant or vain, some guys seem to believe this show is all about them. So I'm definitely going to circle back to that. But for now, without going too far into the beginnings of the band, because that's been pretty well documented over the years. And for listeners who want to find out more about the Parlotones, just go type them into Google. There's tons of stuff. Their Wikipedia page is pretty incredible too. So quite a lot of history there, which I'm sure leaves out a lot too. What I want to know though is this. Do you... I don't necessarily want to dive too deep into the history, but could you maybe talk to me a little bit about how the first big step for you guys, the initial signing with your first label, Sovereign, comes about? Obviously, growing up in South Africa, I knew about Sovereign, and I don't think that they're functional anymore. I could be wrong. If I am, I apologize. But tell us how that initial signing happens, because after that, I mean, obviously you're affiliated with numerous labels after that, but that deal seems to really help put you guys to that next level. So talk me through a little bit about how that happened. And was that a strategic move for you guys? Were you always aiming from hey, we're going to write songs in a garage and try and get to this point A and then get to point B? Or was it just a matter of this kind of thing happened, and then that was when maybe you guys thought, well, we can do more from this?
Yeah, sure. It's like I said, it was almost 25 years ago, maybe. But yeah, so we started the band, and initially it was, I mean, it's hard to explain to people. Kind of, Facebook wasn't always around. There was never an internet. There was never social media or WhatsApp. Like, you literally knew the people in your neighborhood, in your school, the ones who were into varsity. So like the chances of meeting other musicians wasn't always that great, and when you found them, you're like, oh man, this guy has got a drum kit, like, we've got to make this, we've got to make a band. And I'd kind of like met up with this one or two different people, but like when Neil's the drummer, he phoned me and he said, I met this guy, Khan, who's actually in school with us and was writing these songs, and actually so cool, it sounds like Violent Femmes. I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. And then he had phoned me on my parents' landline, so I answered the phone. Had this whole conversation, and my brother around the corner was listening. He's like, "Are you going to join the band?" I'm like, "I think so." And he's like, I want to come too." So I was like, "Okay, cool," but you're only like 15 or something. He was young. He was 15 or 16. So I said, "Okay, cool," but the only instrument that's not taking is the bass. It's like, I don't care. I'll borrow one and learn it. So that's, and then we got into Neil's garage, and there was this like very like rough beginnings of a band, and but it just clicked very early on. It just like, we were all beginners at that point, and none of us were particularly more talented than the other one. Khan always had a knack for songwriting, which I think was always our biggest, like, how the word is, like, one of our biggest strengths was the songs. Like, you can have great musicians, but an average song isn't gonna. People don't really care about flash instruments. They just want a cool song. Most, not always, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then, we played and did this gig and did Battle of the Bands and did all these things. But yeah, we met up. So there was a website called Power Zone back in the day where bands could post up their songs, and you could, like, that was the initial. It was almost like a MySpace for South African bands in those days. And through there, we met the owner of Power Zone. We then started Sovereign Entertainment, which was a record label and the publicity, and they did bookings. They did everything in one house. Kind of like, let's keep the core strong. And I mean, they were very instrumental in pushing us forward. It was a label, so they could pay for recordings, they could put up money for tours and things like that. And I mean, a lot of bands were signed to them. I mean, Prime Circle was them, and Crash Car Burn, and Tweak, and Wonderberg was with them for a while. Like, almost anyone you can think of was part of them. We did eventually have a falling out with them after 14 or 15 years. The same sort of problems kept recurring. Good run. Yeah. And I mean, look, it was the band was creative, and the band was hardworking, and we did the songs and we did the music, and we went on the road, and we socialized and made connections, and we did everything the band was supposed to do. And the label was there to book gigs and get radio play and do all that, and both of us were doing our job very well. But it's eventually the money stuff didn't add up, and there was a long story, So it's the same old story that every band gets.
Same story.
And I'm sure if you spoke to the guys from the label, they'd have their own version of events, But it just got to a point where we were like, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, this could have been resolved, but where we are now, it's beyond, So it's almost like there's almost three phases of the band. There was those early years when we were Sovereign. Then the second phase was when we went up on our own, so we managed ourselves since 2014 or so till COVID. We managed ourselves. We just had like a small team. We just did everything ourselves, basically. Then obviously after COVID and everything, it's almost like phase 3 now, which is where we have to rediscover how do we go forward from that.
Yeah.
So kind of where we are now. But yeah. I mean, for all the things you can say about the label, they were definitely very instrumental in a lot of our success. Because the guy was very clever business-wise. He made a lot of smart business decisions. Like, sure, it's a band and it's fun and whatever, but there's clever ways of doing things. Let's not sit on the small fee and let's see what we can do here. Okay, cool. You guys have won a Sama. Let's leverage that. Sama winning South African rock band. It's all things that a band doesn't always think of. You're too busy trying to learn the next chord and the next thing, and some guys driving the business side of things. But you actually can put too much trust. And then that's, I think, one of the things we never quite got right until it was almost too late, is not really knowing exactly what on in every aspect, because we're too busy. We were literally touring. We were gone for weeks at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, and also if you're trying to create, you don't always have time to worry about the admin stuff. That's where it's interesting where it's gone now. It's, it's great that everything's online and so accessible, and I just can't decide if it's easier or harder for bands now, because it's like, in one way, to just get out there, that seems easier.
Yeah.
But to kind of get noticed in this just wide ocean of artists, like how? I used to always go to like the CD stores when they still had CD stores, and like look at the albums, and like, you're in the store with like tens of thousands of different albums, and I'd always think, man, how do people discover your band or your product here? But like now it's like, dude, now we're not just competing with tens of thousands, we're competing with millions,
Yeah.
And some of it's really good. Not that there wasn't always really good stuff in CD stores, but it's like people can go viral now and just be discovered. Whereas like, it's not that easy to just get your music noticed anymore, I don't think,
But I think the pool used to be smaller, so your chances of kind of rising up were better if you had someone getting you into the right clubs and onto the right radio stations. It was all a connection thing, like, the guy knew Bonnie Simons. He was like, cool, let me give your band a shot. And then because he was one of the main guys at 5FM at the time, he was like, okay, I'll play at my nighttime show, but let me give you a city to Kula or whoever, and she'll play in the day. And then it was like, we can get someone onto this Mnet advert. So it was all and where there's like 5 or 6 bands in the country at that level. It's a little now. But in a way now you can record your own music. You just need GarageBand and a Mac and and it's going to sound amazing, but it sounds fun.
Yeah.
And you can put your music out as CD Baby or DistroKid, and then put yourself on YouTube and all those things. But so are 10,000, 100,000 other bands. So how do you?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it still goes back to touring. You just got to get out there.
Yeah, I agree.
Play shows, and it's unfortunate that that's the hard. There's this dream of just being discovered, or
Yeah, I agree.
This part, it's just getting out there and playing, and that's actually the most fun part for me. I was like, it's never worked.
Yeah, I always enjoyed that as well. I always used to joke and still do, because I gig down here, and I joke with my friends that I don't get paid to play the show. I get paid to get to the venue and load and unload and set up. The rest is easy, So at that level in the band, and now, I mean, I know you guys are a little bit spread out now. We'll get to that in a bit. But did you guys find that even though you were with this kind of in-house kind of label management situation, did you each have like individual roles within the band? And I don't mean creatively. I mean, I don't mean like was one of you writing songs or coming up with riffs. Like, I talk to a lot of guys where there seems to be one head guy in the band that sort of spearheads the whole thing. And then I talk to others where it's like, oh, so-and-so was always in charge of our graphics, and so-and-so was the guy that drove the van. And what was it like for you guys?
Yeah, so I think your natural talents also kind of rise to the surface, because we were lucky enough to become a full-time band. We could quit our jobs, and fairly early on into life. I mean, I was in university. I met Colin. We started the band. We were still studying, and by the time we were finished with university, we could pretty much go full-time. We all made a bit of a gamble. We're like, cool, we can leave these jobs and they can provide X amount of money for us. And it was a bit of a gamble, but it worked, But now when you've got your time, it's like, okay, so Neil became the graphic designer. He was always very artistic, so that became, you design stuff on the computer, you design some album covers, posters, artwork, that kind of thing. And then Khan was kind of the main sort of face of the band. So he would do a lot of interviews, but also he's quite business wise. He's business savvy, So he was also like, because I think, like we also said, you can't have 10 people all talking about the same thing. It just becomes too crosswire. It's like I have 1 or 2 people involved in each apartment, And then my brother and I, like, we often would be out in the streets sticking posters up on walls. We'd print out these massive, like, lengths of posters with wood glue and stick it up underneath the highway bridges. There's still some of them there. Like
that's amazing.
Yeah, and then even like Neil as well. So he was also, his previous job was a mechanic. So he was the workshop foreman at Mercedes-Benz actually just before he left, because he was one of the last ones to leave his job because he really enjoying it and very good at it, but he actually had to make the call. It became too much. So he was always there to fix the van,
Yeah.
But now, I mean, driving across America, our van fell apart consistently,
Yeah.
And he was always there to fix a brake pad or change a fuse or whatever. Yeah, so everyone gets little pockets of responsibilities that you're kind of good at, Like I would often have to do the interviews on Afrikaans because I could speak Afrikaans. So not like, and in our second phase when we were managing ourselves, those things became a bit more defined. It's like, okay, Paul, you have to make sure all the Facebook stuff gets answered in the emails. Then you're doing this. Then the roles become a bit more defined because there's no one else doing it. So if you weren't doing it, there's no one to do it. But yeah, I think it is, and even I think in any band, there's always going to be a couple of different personalities. But if you can have someone that's good with art, that's great because you're always going to need posters and things like that designed, and it helps kind of establish your brand's look and feel as well.
Let me switch things up a little bit and ask, with all the experience and lessons learned over the last 24, 25 years as a band, if you were to possibly tell somebody who wanted to start a band now on how to do so, what would you advise them?
Maybe don't.
That's awesome.
I was actually speaking to, I'm sure you remember Martin Schofield from Wonderland.
Yeah, guitarist, right?
Yeah, great. So, phenomenal guitarist. But him and I actually talk quite a lot. And he was like, music is such a gift because, like, if you're a good sports guy, sometimes your career is over by 20 or 25. Your body can't handle it anymore, and then there's not much left. If you can pick up a guitar at any age and get joy out of it, you can write songs, you can play, you can learn music with the radio. It's like music's always going to be there. It's something that doesn't go away. But I think what you were saying is, and funny enough, I actually have another band at the moment that we started in COVID.
Oh, cool. What's it called?
It's called After Wonderland.
After Wonderland, okay.
Got a youngish female singer, and she also writes great songs, like very, very, like a female perspective. She's very perceptive and that's those emotional connections and stuff. Yeah, so that's brand new. So now I'm looking at this brand new project, and okay, now what? How do you how do you avoid the pitfalls? But obviously it's a different world. Everything. But I think for the best advice is if you're going to start a band, it must be for fun because you want to make music, you want to play with other people, you want to learn. And often you learn more playing with other people.
Yeah.
You can sit and pick up every tab and watch every YouTube video, but when you actually play with other people, that's when things click.
Yeah.
So, and like, if you're good enough and you work hard, maybe some sort of success will come, but that can never be. There's never a guarantee.
Oh,
if you go have a lawyer or a doctor, you're pretty much guaranteed that that'll be a job one day and that'll make you money. But with music, it's got to be a love of it.
It's a great answer, actually. Keep me posted on that band. I'd dig to see it. Have you guys got material out already?
You've just released our third song.
Cool. I'll go check it out after this interview.
I'll send you some links now. Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, it's quite a. Yeah, it's hard to explain. It's a bit of a 90s feel to it.
I'm a big fan. Yeah,
because the 90s were the best,
Yeah, dude. I have to agree. So, sort of around 2012, I mean, after enormous success in South Africa, and I genuinely mean that. I mean, I was doing my research and I always knew that you guys had some kind of big accolades, but I didn't realize that still to this day, you have one of the biggest selling rock albums from a South African band, A World Next Door to Yours. That's incredible. Congratulations.
If I look there, you've got a framed frame picture
Yeah.
of Radio Control Robot and Will Next Door to Yours, and it's excess of 100,000 units sold. I mean,
that's incredible, huh?
Yeah.
Like, especially when you then do go back to kind of thinking, hey, man, I'm getting together in the garage with my buddies and we're going to play some songs. Because if your experience was anything like mine, I mean, those first couple garage practices, dude, none of us knew what the fuck we were doing. So, like, if you go from that to look at all these people that listen to our songs that we know about.
Yeah.
You know?
That's also good advice for bands starting out. It's also just take it seriously.
Yeah.
Like, because it can just be fun. And, a lot of bands you've spoken to are just, I think it's Jasper Daniel, maybe don't quote me on it, but the guy heard his neighbor playing drums and he's like, hey, man, I got a guitar. Let's just have a few beers and play from Lynyrd Skynyrd, whatever.
Yeah.
And that evolved into like one of the biggest bands in the country at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think if you take it seriously and commit to it,
it can be something.
Yeah, and also like, we get these messages from people going, your song, flipping some heavy story, like my mom died and I lost everything and this, but that song of yours with that lyric just flipping carried me through that moment. And then I met this girl and she was also a fan and we were singing the song together. And you think like, gee, man, we just were in a garage smashing some chords and singing this, and it's like, but you think, yo, I actually affected someone's life, and it kind of puts it in perspective. Like this is it's like, yeah, it's a bit of a responsibility as well.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but like you never actually know the impact it's going to have. But also looking back at those things, it's like, wow, that's crazy. But when you're going through it, you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah, that's amazing.
The next show,
Well, anyway, so you guys make the decision to relocate to Los Angeles. Talk to me a little bit about this decision. What happened for you guys during your time in LA or in the States in general? And how important, if at all, do you feel location is for artists in the current music industry?
Yeah, it's actually a very good question. I think location is actually very important. It's, kind of what led up to it was we were actually doing really well in the UK and really well in Germany leading up to America. And it's still a bit of a sticky point because I actually often wonder if we're just stuck. Because the thing is, the UK is small enough to tour the whole country in less than a month. You can literally, and when we did it, we drove every single night we played a show up the country, back down the country, so. And that's in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and that's playing every night. So you can cover the whole of the UK in one tour. And there, you're playing in clubs and people are going out to watch bands. That's like there's a passion for music with them. It's not like we're just at the pub and they're like, who's making this? No, wait, we've actually come out to watch bands. And then from there, that grew over into Germany, and we do the same thing. Like in a month, we'd do Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Netherlands. And so you'd rent a van in England, tour the whole of England for 3 weeks, then catch the ferry across, land in France, and do another 3 weeks in Europe. And then, and by the time you get home, you don't know what side of the road to drive on anymore. But both those territories were actually doing really well. We were getting radio play. We had all kinds of things going on. And then a couple of turning points happened, and our manager at that time, he was like, we're going to go to America. That's where the money is. That's where the success is. The country is huge. There's this opportunity. There's this TV show. And we're like, I don't know, are you sure? Like, it's such good things. Like all these things that have happened in Germany. Yeah, no, definitely. We're not going to neglect those territories. Then obviously America's so big that you just get lost. We would tour for 8 weeks and you'd literally we'd land in LA, drive all the way across, just like almost in a straight line. A little bit up into Canada, like Texas, and then end up in Jersey, leave the van and gear there, and then fly home. And then when we come back, we'd start on the East Coast, work our way back across. But you're hardly scratching the surface. In all that time, you played one venue in each state. Yeah. I think a better tactic would have been to say, okay, cool, let's look at Texas or look at California, like wherever our music seemed to fit. And that's also the thing. America's quite a specific sound, if you think the Nirvanas and the country and not always, but I just feel Parlotones suited a European, because that was all our influences, the Cure and Radiohead and Smiths and all those bands. I mean, obviously R.E.M. and Parlotones are American, but like I think a more of a European sound.
Yeah.
And in America was great, but I just feel we lost a lot of momentum and then Germany and England kind of fell behind, and then they felt hard done by that we weren't fulfilling terms of agreements because you're spending yourself in America. And then it's a different label, and suddenly your song's divided into different series. It all just became very complicated. And I mean, I'm very glad we did it. America was amazing. We lived in LA, in the Valley, for 2 years. I mean, the first year we were touring, so we'd play like 2 months in America, then come home, do some shows, a little bit in America, a little bit in Germany and England, whatever, and then back to America, you know. And then the second year we actually lived there. Yeah, it was just, I mean, we had great times. And there's still people from America that say, oh, man, we saw you, like, there was a place in Boise, you know, Boise.
Yeah.
And they call themselves Noisy Boise. And they're like, when you come back, like, Noisy Boise misses you guys. And just, I mean, it's so many. And, like, a lot of people would fly from, we had one of my favorite stories is this fan called Jackie Barassa. I think she's in her 60s now, maybe a bit older. She might have even been in her 60s then, but she saw us on iTunes. They had Push Me to the Floor as a free video download on iTunes, and she saw it, and she's like, this is great. And she left a note on her kettle and flew to Canada or something to come watch us. She just told her husband, I've gone to watch the Parlotones in Canada.
That's something I've noticed living here. You know, it's like you say, it's so big that I know people who've got like no problem catching a flight to like Miami or Austin or something, Atlanta, like, okay, it's maybe an hour or two, so it's not that far, but it's like, it's no big deal. It's like not even a second guess. Oh yeah, look, so-and-so is coming, you know? It's like our equivalent of going up to the pub.
Recognition. Yeah. Even now in South Africa, if we've got a show in Randburg, even Pretoria, going, oh, when you come into Pretoria, it's like a 20 minutes drive max. I mean, really.
Exactly, dude. Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got like so many stories of people that made huge missions to come see us wherever we were, you know, and it was great. It was, I mean, still in contact with a lot of those people, and it's sad to think we might never go back to Canada, you know, we might never see, but you never know. You never know what's around.
Yeah.
But we got to experience it, you know, we really got to see.
And it's an attest to your music as well, man. The fact that it's touched so many people all around the world. It's, dude, I mean, you know, we were talking about accolades at the start, and we were talking a little bit about the sort of the album going multi-times platinum, et cetera, et cetera. But like, dude, I mean, it's funny, age, as I'm sure you will realize, it gives you so many different perspectives. And it's like, it's funny, you know, because like when I personally think back to being like 15, 16, I go like, oh man, if only the band could do this. And then it does that, and you go, oh, okay, well, cool. If only the band could do that. But like then as you get older and like you have these kinds of stories where it's like, hey, so-and-so over in this territory in a world that we don't even live in loves our songs, or we get played in like, I don't know, Finland or something. Like those are cool things, you know.
Yeah, great. And you think like, how did it even happen? How did they even find it? But I think that's the cool thing, like music, like, it's such a personal thing, and sometimes you just find this band that you're like, yes, man, this is great, you know, like I don't care where it's from or who it is or who's singing it or what, like, I don't really care, but the song's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you put to your friend, he's like, yeah, okay, you're like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Huh? I want to talk a little bit about your kind of partnership licensing opportunities, and what I'm meaning by this is like things like sort of, I don't know if it's a partnership or a licensing deal, so that's why I worded it as both. But like things like the teaming up with the Hands of Wine people to release the Parlotones different brands of wine. I know eventually Con goes on to judge the Voice SA. There's all these different things that, you know, they still kind of link back to the band, but they're also totally different ventures. Talk to me about how these opportunities came about, and also, how important do you personally feel finding these different forms of exposure are for a band, like whether it's the Parlotones or just for a band in general?
I mean, it's also, I think some of the things were like actively pursued, like someone went out looking for business opportunity in a certain sphere, but for the most part, it was incoming. So there was a lot of things where, because actually the wine thing, we did an interview with a property magazine or something, and someone said to Karen, "What's your ideal property?" He's like, "Oh, I'd love to own a wine farm one day." That would be like, obviously unrealistic dream, but imagine just having a wine farm. That'd be cool. And then some wine farm magazine or someone was like, "Oh, we can't give you a wine farm, but maybe we should do a Parlotones wine." And then the conversation started from there. Led to this thing. We did 3 wines. I think that was like in 2010. It's actually insane to think how long ago it was. And it was a limited run. I mean, there were the 3 wines, and then it was made from the specific crop and a blend, whatever, and it didn't carry on from there. It's also pretty. I feel it could have been something that could have maybe carried on if it kind of maybe. Yeah, but also sometimes you just got to let it go. It had
exactly.
Like you can't. And the thing is, we're not wine makers. Like, sure, in the beginning, it's like, oh, cool, this rock band's made of wine, and the red was amazing. That Giant Mistake red wine was fantastic. But it's the same thing. The guys like, don't try to think about, because we did like a crash course in wine tasting and what goes into it and the whole process. I actually found some video footage of when we're on the wine farm doing all the tasting and stuff. It's actually funny. Not spitting the stuff, we're just drinking everything.
Well, you're a band.
But the guy's like, just go with what tastes good. It's like, I'm not going to tell you this or that or tannins or whatever, all these things. It's like, just go for what sounds cool. And I think it's the same with music. We're never too focused or particular about a certain genre or style. Like, we always just did what came naturally. And in the beginning, we were these weirdos. Everyone's like, this is a weird band with scarves on stage and wearing makeup and like writing this weird, like we were the weirdos, and then a couple of years go by and suddenly you're mainstream. Those sellouts, like it's the same band, same song. It's like nothing's really changed. But I think a lot of those things came to the band, and some, I mean, there's a lot of things you turn down. I mean, even to this day, we still get emails saying, "Hey man, there's this thing and this thing, and can you be involved in this and that?" And some of them just worked out well, So, and obviously sometimes things aren't favorably received. We've done partnerships with corporates or products, or your adverts used in a Woolworths advert, and it's like it's a thing that put your song in the advert. But suddenly now, how can you support Woolworths and how can you support these? And it's like, and then you're like, well, either you must never have any commercial engagements, which is also silly because bands don't make a lot of money as it is. With all these tours and all these awards and all this stuff, it's not millions in it, not fighting. But those adverts and the TV show spots and those things bring in good money, and it's money that can count. But it's that same thing, like what's the call? Like you put your song in an advert. I mean, there's some things where we all went, we're not comfortable with that. We'd rather leave it, but for the most part, you're like, every band does it. I mean, you've heard Hootie and the Blowfish in whatever, or
dude, it's
wherever it is. Everyone does it. You pop with something, car insurance kind of thing. It's like it is what it is. It's like, and you can't read too much into it.
So you guys decide on those things together as a band. How does that work? Do you sit down and like discuss the pros and cons, or is there one person that would maybe say, "I really believe in this," and kind of sway the others?
Yeah, it's hard to really remember clearly a lot of it, but for some of the times I remember going, "Oh, okay, are we doing that?" Like the management kind of made the call, and probably spoke to Karen about it. That the sort of a decision maker in the band, had to have one point of contact. And then Karen was like, "Oh, well, I don't think. I mean, obviously the big things would be a group discussion. It would be like, okay, guys, are you all keen on this big thing, or this thing?" But for the most part, like most things are fairly obvious decisions. No one's going to be like, "No, I don't want us on that advert." I don't want. But for them, and the thing like you can't have now if it's 4 band members and 3 people in management and the drummer's girlfriend and everyone's got a say. You're going to talk forever, and there's never going to be consensus. Whereas if it's like Karen made the call and it wasn't anything too controversial, not going to cause any huge ripples, but so I think it's also a delegation of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Talk to me a little bit about your experience kind of juggling the Parlotones' earlier schedules with family life, the ups, the downs, maybe some tips if you have any on how people might make that work. I'm sure that's much easier now. In fact, I know it's easier now. I mean, we didn't have, I remember, dude, the first time we went over to England, you had to buy the call cards. That was the only way you could stay in touch with people. Like, we didn't have like smartphones and stuff, but like, what's your experience with that sort of situation?
Yeah, so I mean, those early UK tours, yeah, you bought those little phone cards, and then you had like minutes to quickly phone. We're alive, we're in flipping, I don't know, somewhere where we find everyone's alive. And every now and again, you'd find someone with a computer and you could send an email home or something. Yeah, but for the most part, yeah, you were just on the road. But I was the first guy in the band to get married and have a kid, So, I mean, I missed a lot of my daughters early. I mean, we were on our way to play shows in Cape Town when my wife went into labor.
Oh, wow.
Labor started early, So I had to get dropped off in Bloem, sleep over at someone's house, fly back the next day to be at the birth of my child, kind of thing. And the band went on, tried to do the shows without me, which was a disaster. But so I was the youngest, well, the first guy to have a kid, and be married. And the rest of the guys didn't really understand, So now you're away from your child. I've missed her birthday, and you've missed your wedding anniversary. Then you've missed this thing, and it becomes hard, and no one can relate because they don't have kids. They're like, yeah, but you'll see her, buy her a Hannah Montana doll or whatever. And like, it's not the same, like your kid just never sees her dad, kind of thing. My wife's going, I feel like a single mother, and then there's a lot of stress that comes with that, And now the rest of the guys, they've got young kids, and they're looking at it from that side, going, "Gee, how did you ever do those? How did you not see your child for 4 weeks and 5 weeks at a time?" I was like, "Well, that's why I got miserable sometimes." And you get homesick, get lonely. Yeah, so it's hard to find a balance, but I think we've also all been lucky to have found partners who have been very understanding. So our girlfriends and wives have always been very cool with what happens, because obviously when you're in a band, there's always like extra levels of attention coming your way, and there's like girls all over you and photos that, so it's never anything dodgy going on, but like some people can't handle that kind of thing. Some people are like, they get jealous or whatever, So I think we've been lucky in that regard. We've had very understanding partners, which has helped.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it's kind of differs from person to person, I think, But like you say, these days you can just pick up your phone and WhatsApp call, video call, and then and we had that towards the end. In America, we could make WhatsApp video calls, and Skype was a big thing back then,
Yeah.
Which is funny enough what we're using now.
yeah, the oldest video platform in history.
Yeah. That is a tough one, and I think each person in each band kind of has to figure it out in their own way, But I think the important thing is you're in this band and you're touring and you're having fun and everyone loves you, and there's like drinks backstage, and after you're partying and you're out till 3 a.m, and you having a factual. Meanwhile, back home it's hard, Still got to get up, get the kids to school. So I think when you are back home, you've got to be fully invested back home, like, because there you're back to someone has to wash the dishes, someone has to get the kids to school. So I think as long as you can find that balance of just and invest time back in when you're there, but it is hard.
Yeah.
We've obviously spoken a lot about what I keep kind of inverting commas as the current music industry. What do you feel, away from sort of our last couple sentences with Skype and WhatsApp and FaceTime and all that stuff, what do you feel have been the biggest changes musically that have come up since guys like us were coming up? And furthermore, what do you think it takes to make it nowadays?
Yeah, sure. If we knew the answers, we would
Yeah.
be famous than we are. Yeah. Sure. Well, I think music sales doesn't exist anymore. Like, you've got little chance of making any money from, like, music videos are almost pointless because, like, people don't have the attention span. No one wants to watch 3.5 minutes of the music video, and as great as some of them are, like they just don't get watched, But like social media, like I know, like that is where a lot of people hear music, on TikTok, which I don't even have on my phone, but apparently a lot of people hear music on TikTok. But I don't actually even know how to answer that.
Yeah, it's such a tough one. I talk about it all the time. It's like, I actually saw Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins talking about it recently. He was saying to some people, like, just don't even do it. Like, just don't play, don't do anything, get on social media all day. And it's like, I don't know how to feel about that, because part of it's right. I see some of these guys on TikTok. I mean, I was having a conversation with a really prominent guitarist the other day, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to misquote him, but he was telling me that a friend of his works at a massive label, okay? Like massive label. And these guys are offering some of these influencer type people deals because of their numbers, right? And apparently they're turning it down because like they make more money posting brand partnership type ads, plus they don't have to leave their house. I mean, we were just talking about how you miss you miss your family stuff, and you miss this and you miss that, all these important events. Now you don't even have to leave the house. But it's interesting because it's like,
you're on the road, best things ever, with your friends.
That was always my favorite part,
Yeah, I remember that Rick, it was Rick Beata interviewing Billy Corgan, I think, where he said, like, what I actually prefer is like when we were young, bands were a mystery. You'd read a little bit about Metallica or Collector Soul, whatever, in your music magazine.
Yeah.
And who's this and who's that? All the band members' names. There was actually a video recently with Rick Beata going, there was a time where you knew every band member's name in every band that you liked, and gradually you don't know anymore. Maybe you know the singer, but for the most part, you don't really know everyone in the band anymore. And even there was some other interview I watched where the guys was like, even the guys at the label don't really know what's coming. Like you can't predict musical trends, but you react to when something does happen, you like get on that. Whether it's some big country artist or a Billie Eilish or suddenly this Mumford and Sons, suddenly this thing happened, and you then get on that. But you never predict all those things happening. So I think to make it, even the band, I mean, now the guys are going, man, yes, I wish we could just like do this full time, because now you got to balance it with day jobs and still getting home at 6 p.m, having to have supper, see your wife, see your kid. Okay, it's rushing off to band practice. I get home at 11, 12 and you're tired. And it's just such a privilege to have done it as a full-time job for so long in my mind, because obviously I now have a day job as well. And only now I appreciate how good we had it. Like that's our hindsight is 2020. And I'm like, used to moan about having to have 2 band practices a week. We're like, but we practiced on Monday. Why again? Let's spend a week in Cape Town recording a song. Like, why? But, sometimes you lose touch of what you actually have.
It's true.
But I think to make it, it's like, I mean, if you could even just cover the cost of what it takes to create your music, put it out there, and cover a tour. Like I think, it's too many people want like financial reward, and I think the music industry is so fickle. I mean, you see bands explode and disappear. So like, if you've got some just, and I even said to my daughter, like, sometimes your job's just got to be a job. Like, don't fall for that finding your passion and stuff. Like, sometimes you just got to go and do a job, and that's what it is. But then you've got your band or your dancing or your
whatever,
game streaming, whatever it is, your passion that you live for, that you love, and if you can turn it into some sort of income, that's great. That can be and even what we find as Parlotones, when your passion becomes your career, the decisions become quite difficult, because suddenly there's salaries that need to be paid, and that, and a band, and everything becomes complicated, and that's a lot where the friction comes in there, where it's not just like, cool, we've got 3 shows this weekend, great, see you then, can't wait. Suddenly it's like everything becomes more complicated, so it's not always as, but it is also, it's, I don't know, I'm not really saying anything specific.
No, you're hitting the nail on the head. It's all very true. So, and again, I could be slightly ignorant on this, but from what I see, Nowadays, you guys are spread across 2 different continents. Glenn and Khan are in Europe, or Netherlands more specifically. Yourself and Neil are still in SA. I know you've got Rob in the band as now. I think he's in SA too. Talk me through how things work logistically, and to dig a little deeper. Logistically, what has been the hardest part about being in a band for you personally over the years?
Yeah, so Rob is our fifth member. He became a full-time band member quite a while ago. He writes great songs. He plays keys. He sings. I mean, he did a lot of driving on the European tours. Him and our sound guy did a lot of the driving. So he also that was kind of a role for him. But he also got to see the world with us and everything. But so Khan and Glenn are in the Netherlands, me, Rob, Neil, and also Trevor Rebello is playing a lot with us lately. Because Glenn can't always make it out, so Trevor fills in on bass. So we're all in South Africa. So what we do is sort of every second week on a Sunday, we get together. Because also, you'll understand this, the implications of this, but can't change the key of every single song. Often what happens is, he said, like, when we started, we were young and you could sing at this level, and you're singing in noisy nightclubs with people smoking next to you, one wedge monitor for the whole band.
Yeah. My favorite was the one monitor mix. I used to love that. Sorry, guys, we're running a one monitor mix. Like, what?
Everyone just gets the same thing. And then you're there until 2 or 3 in the morning, shouting conversations over people and late nights. And no one ever said to him, you're singing at your max right now.
Top of the range.
You can't actually sustain it. So he actually tore his vocal cords. He got nodules in his vocal cords. They have to be laserable. And ever since then, I mean, he healed pretty well, but there's just slight inconsistencies. So he can't always maintain notes like he used to, just effortlessly be able to hold these notes and hit these things. And now every now and again there's a wobble, and then that affects your confidence. And then you get nervous and that happens more. So he was actually, the last 2 years, he actually said he really was struggling with shows because it just felt so self-conscious. And I was like, I promise you, people don't even know. Like, people just love Khan, the character. You're so animated, you're so charismatic, the songs are great. And sure, your voice wobbles, but I mean, go watch any band in the world, 30 Seconds to Mars,
exactly.
Metallica, the singers never like you hear, but it's still good, but he just struggled with it. So now in COVID and all this time when we were down, he sat finding comfortable keys for every song.
Wow.
So we've had like 25, I think even more now, songs we've had to relearn in new keys, complete. So like Push Me to the Floor used to be in C. It's now transposed to F sharp.
Oh, wow.
So no open chord shapes. A lot of my riffs and stuff use open strings.
Yeah.
Every little riff I've written, I'm like, how am I going to? Only human used to use the open B string over notes, and now I'm like, it's so I had to capo widen and use the G string instead. That was a huge learning curve. So I had to sit in every song. That Roman numeral system, that Roman
Nashville number system, yeah.
Every single song I went and guess it's 1 major, 3 minor, and actually got a lot of perspective into some of our songs, because I mean, some songs, there's a song I didn't even realize at the time, but it's C, A minor, F, G for all the choruses, and the last chorus goes C, B flat, F, F minor, C. It's like the result and cadencing. I'm like, that's so clever.
Yeah.
Like, where did it come from? But so what we first had to do was the whole band. So me, Rob, Trevor, and Neil got together. So actually without Neil first, because Neil's the drum parts don't change.
Yeah.
He's just plays what he's always played. But the 3 of us got together, relearned all those songs, and then got back together with Neil. Luckily Trevor can sing, so he sang and we learned all the songs in new keys in anticipation of shows that were coming up. Then Khan came over. So often if there's a show coming up, I could play the show on Friday nights, Saturday night. So Khan arrived on Thursday. We had to practice together in the garage. Then we had to practice at the show, and then sound checking on the show. So the band itself, so the 4 of me, Neil, Rob, Trevor, 4 of us have got to be up to speed, make sure everything's fine. And then when Khan arrives, we have been practicing on his side, but then you just got to iron out those little, every now and again, we all think it's a double chorus, Khan thinks it's a single chorus, like those
those kinds of things, yeah.
It's a little, because also now with all the keys being changed, we can't use any of our tracks that we used to have.
Yeah.
We used to have tracks with all the string sections and all the like electronic parts and all those things.
Yeah.
We can't use any of that. So we're literally back to drums, guitar, bass,
Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah, which is great. I actually quite enjoy it. But we have been bringing the click back in one song at a time because I feel like the click is actually very important.
Yeah.
Like I was actually watching old video footage I found of the Coke Fest in 2007, I think it was.
Okay.
And we played, it's like the songs are done, by 2 minutes the songs are finished.
Wow.
Like,
Playing it that quick.
it's so fast. It's actually ridiculous. It's actually got to look on YouTube, like Here Comes a Man and stuff like that. It's
Yeah, I will. I'll go check out after this.
in the mood, you're just like hoeing, We actually, I didn't in that show, but we had a music video for Dragonflies and Astronauts, which we played on the screen behind us. So we said, cool, we're going to start the music video and we're going to play along to the video. Yes, we play, look up, the video is like still halfway through.
Oh, no.
And they were like, okay, guys, I think maybe we should start getting a click track involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're using that because also now with my pedals and stuff, I can set specific songs. So if you've got specific tremolo speeds and delay speeds and stuff, at least it's always going to be 120 when you click on that patch and try to tap in different effects and stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of the logistics of the thing. And then Khan checks in on us every now and again. He's like, oh, it's headmaster checking in. Are you all doing your homework? And we're like, yes, Khan. Like, okay, I've added 2 new songs. This is like, yes, Khan. We've all got it. At all. We've missed like the last 2 practices. But yeah, that's kind of what we do, And then he arrives, we run through everything. And actually the plan is to start writing another album, So we've got some stuff we might want to release this year, but we want to start working on. So at least that you can do remotely. Because actually we re-recorded 2 songs 2 years ago, maybe. There's also downtime and stuff like that. And Khan recorded his vocals in the cupboard at home. We all went to these studios, put all the music there, and then he had to tell his kids to shush. And it just get like 1 or 2 takes before he had to go out and chat to them and then go back. And it sounds great. That's the convenience of technology. And even songwriting. When we used to write songs, we always used to get to Neil's house and set up in his lounge. And Khan's like, okay, the song goes like this. I'm like, what are the chords? What? Okay, oh, hang on, what's the bass? And it'd take like half a day just to figure out the song.
Yeah.
Then the drummer starts playing. Khan's like, no, I don't need you to do that beat. Let's go listen to this new song. I think that beat. It would take forever to write a song, which was fun. Started getting annoying, as we started like getting families and stuff. We didn't have all the time to sort of. Now Khan sends 20 demos on email. We all download them, put them into GarageBand, noodle some parts, send them back, and it's actually so much. But the chemistry is good because when you get together, it's like, okay, cool, that is fine. Let's just change that. But it's become easier in that regard.
Yeah, it's good.
So, but it also like boggles my mind is I was listening to Rick Beato interview the guys from the Police.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Roxanne and Walking on the Moon, they literally wrote in an afternoon, ran through a few times live, and that's the version you hear today.
And it's amazing. I mean, come on.
Also, they had the benefit of a label behind them, all the money they needed, all the time they needed, the best studio in the world. They weren't running back to go work in the bookshop, wherever, So.
Yeah, and sometimes there's beauty in, when you are creative, it can be so easy to second guess stuff, right? And sometimes the beauty of at least music back then, especially if you look at reggae as a whole, I mean, dude, so many reggae recordings, as I'm sure a lot of the like R&B recordings from the 60s and stuff too, but so many of them have mistakes on that become so hard to emulate if you're trying to play them. But if you look into the history of them, dude, these guys were on such tight budgets that like the labels would send them into studio and you had like your 3 hours to do your song. And hey, they were releasing it whether it was great or not. And it's like, sometimes there's beauty in making that decision, like, oh, that's what it is.
Let's go with it. Yeah, it's great. And it's like, it adds a human element to it. It just sounds real. Cool.
Completely.
Now, so sometimes things can be too perfect. It's like too clinical, too clean.
Exactly. It's not something I was going to ask you about, but since you mentioned Coke Fest and since you mentioned Metallica, let's briefly talk about that for a second. I don't know what year it was. All I know is that I was there and you guys were on the bill, and you know, the way those Coke Fests used to run it was like South African bands that got, started with like bands that were doing well, heading towards the band that was like the biggest at the time in South Africa. Then there were the international bands. And whatever year that was that Metallica came, I guess they were running behind or some bullshit. I don't really know. But you guys played after. Dude, that must have been quite daunting.
It was actually a decision, that it was a call that we made.
Oh, wow.
So what they said was there were all these bands, and then I can't remember. It was 2006. I just remember Metallica were the headliners. I can't remember because we played a couple of them, and there was different bands in different years.
Yeah.
But then they said, okay, cool, you guys, we're going to add Parlotones to the bill. So I think we had just had some sort of success. Like we weren't really. I think Colourful had some radio plays, so it was like a bit of a buzz, but no, like we weren't as big as I think New Girls might have played, and
Okay.
like some bigger bands than us, So they said, okay, cool. Either you can play at 12 in the afternoon when the gates open, or after Metallica. And we were like, well, we'll play after Metallica for the press
Great.
alone. People, we got so much press of that. Everyone's like, are you mad? Like, no
Yeah.
one's going to watch you. People will leave halfway through Metallica. People leave because they don't want to sit in the parking lot,
Yeah.
But when I said the best part of it for me was I got to watch Metallica 3 times from backstage, which was brilliant,
Yeah.
and we got to meet the guys and everything. It was so cool. Because in that first Coke Fest, all the bands' backstage rooms were in a row behind the stage. So it was literally, there was no like distinction of international bands here and local. We were all in the same, we all ate lunch in the same green room, everything. So we literally just walked up to Kirk Hammett. He was sitting playing guitar, eating his lunch, and we were like, hey man, big fans. And he's like, oh cool, he signed us, he had a little chat. It was actually super cool. Yeah, and then we played, so there were 40,000 people or something. And then when we finished, they opened the golden circle, and everyone could run forward. So we had about 5,000 people that actually came forward to watch us.
Amazing.
Those people said we actually stayed to see you guys. And
Yeah, that's wicked.
That was fantastic. Like, what a cool story,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super cool, man.
Amazing, man.
Hey, Paul, last question, dude. What do you think has been the best piece of advice you've ever been given, or something you've learned along the way in regards to trying to have a musical career?
You should have had something prepared for this. Well, I think you get given a lot of contradictory advice, but everyone is just trying to be helpful. But sure. The best piece of advice to have a musical career. I think maybe like take like the art seriously from early on. I think like I personally waited too long to start really getting into a bit of theory and practicing properly. So I think, it might not amount to success, but if you can sit down in a room with strangers and they're like, cool, we're playing this song, we're playing this key, and you can fall in with them without going, I'm just going to play A minor. I think it's and learn more than your instrument. I think there's more than just your instrument. You can there's the business side of things and the history of what's happened to other bands, and maybe try and make a band logo or write a song. Maybe look into lyric writing or song. Because I think actually the most important thing to have a career in music is to have good songs. Either become a shit hot session player, be like Raymond Green, and just you can be a master and they can put you anywhere, which is hard. That happens to 1 in 10,000 people, whatever, or Denim, one of those guys, or teach. You can always teach, which is maybe not the most exciting, but it can be as rewarding. But I think the song is king. If you can learn the art of writing good songs. A good song can be C and G or A and D and E. A song can be nothing to play. You can play it with one finger. But just the art of a good song. And I think Parlotones, we were lucky with that. The chemistry worked, the band worked, and when we managed to write songs that just resonated with people from all walks of life, all around the world.
Yeah.
And we were lucky when we worked hard and we managed to somehow get it done. But I think, just write good songs. If you look at I mean, look at Biffy Clyro, Bring Me the Horizon, been Shania Twain, Def Leppard, AC/DC. They're all different, but they all have great songs. And you don't have to sell yourself out. You don't have to like, well, to be successful, we have to sound like Taylor Swift. You don't have to.
Exactly. Yeah.
You could bring Me the Horizon. So I think that. Yeah.
No, you're right, dude. You're right. I mean, my parents were always quite supportive of us at that age when we were kind of along those same scenes in the early years. And dude, even my mom owns Parlotones CDs. So, like it's an attestament to the songs, man. Because, while my parents obviously know a lot about music through me and stuff like that and the career and stuff, at the end of the day, my mom's not putting on a song and going, oh, I love the theory behind this and the arrangement. She's going, giant mistake. I can sing along to that. And she did, time and time again, so.
The lyrical content, you're like, what the hell were we thinking? We're thinking, you can apply it to almost anything that's happening in life. Like,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and like, what was I going to say? No, also, Parlotones, we were lucky. Like, we caught a very good wave of music. There was the MK89 music channel, radio stations were playing South African bands. There were a lot of venues all over the country. So we were very lucky to have caught good time. There was a little explosion of music, and there wasn't YouTube and there wasn't Netflix. Like, there wasn't a lot for people to do but go out.
Yeah.
I think if we had started a little earlier, a little later, we might have missed. There's a couple of bands I've spoken to are very good, but they just missed out on the MK89 days and the 5FM when they're playing all the rock music and the local bands. So there was just good timing,
Yeah.
All right, Paul Hodgson from the Parlotones. Dude, thank you so much for your time. This has been a lot of fun, man. I can't remember if you did it with us back in the day or what, but I was going to ask you if you guys ever did the whatever that competition was that Simon Folds did where you had to have a shot of some kind of thing. I think it was tequila, and then to eat one of those marshmallow eggs at the same time. And then I was like, I can't ask about that because I can't remember who all was on those things. I just remember it being terrible.
Yeah.
And not the event, just the whatever that taste was that created.
Yeah, you did push-ups in the shot of tequila and run back.
Yeah, that's it. What the hell? What's that gonna do?
Yeah, we did lots of those. Battle of the Bands.
No, dude, this was a lot of fun, man. Thanks for your time, and I wish you nothing but success, man, both with your new band and the Parlotones and just in life, dude.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Wicked, man. Peace.
Cool. Ciao.
Alrighty, there we have it. Paul Hodgson, everybody. As usual, I'd like to thank Paul for his time. I'd like to thank each and every one of you who continue to listen to these episodes around the world for your time. I know I said it at the top of the episode, but please do me a favor and leave us a rating or review. Likewise, feel free to share these episodes or interviews with your up-and-coming musician friends or like-minded musician friends. I feel like there's usually some pretty cool stories or tips and tricks in them, and I hope you feel that too. My name is Travis Mark. You can find out more about me at the musicians-mentor.com website. Make sure you check out Paul and the Parlotones and After Wonderland by clicking the links on our show notes. Until then, keep practicing, work hard, and I'll see you next time. Peace.